you got a lot of attention because after the game you're trying to celebrate. What was that like where you couldn't get on the floor? Did that kind of bother you a little bit? Or?
No, I mean, I think the guy sometimes people bad judgment, bad judgment. Security guy was telling me to go in, so he's rejecting the other guy's authority. That was what's bad about it.
Now, you got that all figured out tonight. If they win, there will be no delay.
I will push him out of the way.
At 62, Hakeem Olajuwon seems to have finally confirmed what we all suspected. After he was recently disrespected at a major event, many fans claimed they are all racist, suggesting a hidden truth has finally come out. But the real story is not one simple confirmation. The suspicions around Hakeem are not about a single hidden flaw. They are about a deep, complex, and human story of a man who navigated a world that never fully understood him. His life has been defined by his faith, his identity as an immigrant, and his intense fight for belonging. This is the real story, and it is far more powerful than any rumor. In April 2025, the University of Houston defeated Duke with a dramatic 70-67 comeback victory in the Final Four. It was a historic moment for the university. Hakeem Olajuwon, the man widely credited with putting Houston basketball on the map, tried to join his alma mater on the court to celebrate. This was their first trip to the championship game since his own Phi Slama Jama days. Instead of a welcome embrace, he was met by a security guard who physically blocked his entry. Video of the incident captured his sheer dismay. One observer described an unmistakable expression on his face. The public outcry was immediate and fierce. Houston sports icon J.J. Watt tweeted his frustration, saying, "What are we doing here?" Former teammate Vernon Maxwell, known for his fiery personality, also weighed in with characteristic bluntness. The online reaction was a mixture of disbelief and outrage. Many called the incident embarrassing and absolute foolishness. The debate that followed touched on a fundamental tension. Some argued the security guard was simply doing his job by enforcing credential rules. These are necessary standards at high-profile events. Others countered that certain figures, like Hakeem in this context, transcend such formalities. Denying him access was a failure of judgment and common sense. Hakeem himself later addressed the incident with his typical composure. He attributed it to bad judgment on the part of the guard. He also noted the absurdity of the situation. Another security official was simultaneously trying to wave him onto the court, but the first guard was rejecting the other authority. It revealed a breakdown in communication and recognition. Ultimately, the situation was resolved. Hakeem was able to celebrate with the team as they headed to the locker room. He later attended the championship game, where he was seen sitting with fellow 7-foot phenom Victor Wembanyama. It was a visual reaffirmation of his undeniable status in the basketball world. This theme of being an outsider at the gate started 45 years earlier in 1980. An 18-year-old Hakeem traveled from Lagos, Nigeria to New York. For a recruiting visit, he was not highly recruited at the time. He was scheduled to meet a coach from St. John's University at the airport, but there was a mix-up. No representative from the school was there to greet him. Stepping out of the terminal, he was met with a blast of cold air. It was a shock to someone accustomed to a tropical climate. He retreated inside the airport where a chance encounter altered the course of basketball history. He met a baggage handler who also happened to be from Nigeria. Hakeem was holding tickets for his other recruiting visits to Louisville, Providence, and Houston. He asked his countrymen a simple question: which of the three cities would be the warmest? The man shrugged and replied, "Houston." On the basis of that single word, his trajectory was set. This pivotal moment was driven by a desire for familiar weather and a connection to a fellow countryman. It underscores the precarious and unplanned nature of his journey. His arrival in Houston completed the image of a solitary beginning. Once again, no one from the university was at the airport to meet him. He had to call the coaching staff. They unceremoniously told him to take a taxi to the campus. This welcome, or lack of it, marked the start of his life in a new country. It was not with fanfare, but with a sense of isolation and uncertainty. Can you imagine arriving in a foreign country and being left completely alone like that? Drop your thoughts in the comments below about how you would have handled that situation. And do not forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss stories like this about basketball legends who overcame incredible odds. These two events, separated by 45 years, serve as narrative bookends to his American story. They reveal that his sense of belonging has, in some ways, always been conditional. It has been subject to the validation of external gatekeepers. In 1980, his exclusion was a product of his anonymity. He was an unknown quantity from a foreign land. In 2025, his momentary exclusion was a product of bureaucratic absurdity. His legendary status was inexplicably unrecognized. The parallel demonstrates something profound. No matter the level of fame or accomplishment, the status of an immigrant can be momentarily revoked by the lowest level authority figure. Full, unconditional belonging is never absolute. The city of Houston's relationship with Hakeem reflects this journey. It evolved from the institutional neglect he experienced upon arrival to the passionate, citywide defense he received after the Final Four incident. This marked his transformation from an overlooked commodity to a cherished, foundational icon. What makes these parallel incidents even more striking is what they reveal about American society. In both cases, the system failed him at a gate. First, it was literal indifference when he arrived as a young recruit with dreams. Second, it was bureaucratic rigidity when he returned as a legend to celebrate those same dreams realized. Between these two moments lies a lifetime of achievement, 2 NBA championships, an MVP award, a Hall of Fame career, yet in both instances, he found himself on the outside looking in. This is the uncomfortable truth about the immigrant experience in America. Success does not guarantee acceptance. Achievement does not ensure belonging. Even when you become one of the greatest to ever play the game, you can still be stopped at the gate. The public persona of Hakeem Olajuwon is one of serene dominance. It is defined by the fluid, almost balletic grace of his signature dream shake. This image, however, can obscure the intense competitive fire required to succeed at the highest level. The long-rumored locker room altercation with teammate Vernon Maxwell provides a definitive look at this other side of him. It reveals the raw pressures of leadership and the abrasive chemistry that can forge a championship team. The incident occurred during halftime of a 1993 regular season game in Seattle. The Houston Rockets were facing a formidable Supersonics team. Vernon Mad Max Maxwell, a key guard for the Rockets, was having a poor first half. He was deeply frustrated. According to his own detailed account, he was spitting mad. Literally, this was a habit he had when angered. As he sat in the locker room, teammates like Sam Cassell and Robert Horry attempted to calm him down, but he remained inconsolable. The situation was tense, and it was about to escalate dramatically. As the team captain, Hakeem felt it was his duty to intervene. He approached Maxwell to address his unprofessional behavior. Maxwell later recounted the confrontation. Hakeem told him his behavior was not professional and needed to stop. Maxwell, never one to back down, responded with defiance. He told Hakeem he was tired of him too. He later admitted he should not have said that. Hakeem's response was swift and physical. Maxwell describes being slapped with incredible force. He said Hakeem slapped him so hard, he thought he had been punched. He was knocked clean out of his chair by the blow. The slap turned the locker room into a scene of chaos. Enraged, Maxwell jumped up, grabbed his chair, and smashed a glass display case. The situation deteriorated so rapidly that police officers providing security at the arena entered the locker room. They had their guns drawn, demanding Maxwell put down the large shard of glass he had picked up. Maxwell later admitted his intent was to chase Hakeem with it before everyone fled the room. This de-escalated the immediate physical threat. Years later, the incident remains a vivid memory for Maxwell. He has recounted it on various platforms. He contrasts this fiery version of Hakeem with the man he became after fully rededicating himself to his Muslim faith. He describes him as so quiet, so humble. The story eventually went viral when Maxwell saw Hakeem at a Rockets event. He brought up the story. Hakeem's response was not one of anger, but of weary exasperation. He asked Maxwell why he was opening up the new wound and to leave that door closed. This altercation was more than just a fight. It was a violent expression of leadership and accountability in a high-pressure environment. As the team's undisputed leader, Hakeem felt it was his responsibility to enforce a professional standard. Maxwell's defiance was a direct challenge to that authority. The slap, while extreme, can be viewed as a forceful reset within the team's hierarchy. The Rockets went on to win that game 86-81. In the following seasons, they won back-to-back NBA championships. This suggests that such intense internal conflicts, while ugly, can sometimes be part of the crucible that forges a team's championship resolve. It shows his intense desire to win and his willingness to hold teammates accountable. No matter the personal cost, the fact that this incident remained hidden for so long speaks to a different era in professional sports. In today's world of instant social media and constant surveillance, such a dramatic locker room confrontation would have been leaked immediately. It would have dominated news cycles for weeks. There would have been suspensions, fines, and endless commentary. But in 1993, what happened in the locker room stayed in the locker room. This privacy allowed teams to work through conflicts internally. It allowed players to be human, to make mistakes, and to move forward without public judgment. The containment of this story for decades is itself a testament to the respect and loyalty within that Rockets team. Hakeem's toughest battle was not in the locker room, but in public. Over his faith, the controversy centers on the Islamic Dawah Center in Houston, a mosque established and largely funded by Hakeem. He served as vice president. According to tax records, the center made donations to 2 specific charitable organizations. They donated to the Islamic African Relief Agency and the Holy Land Foundation for Relief and Development. Hakeem also personally participated in a 1999 celebrity bowling tournament fundraiser for the Holy Land Foundation. The critical context for this issue is the timeline. All of the documented donations occurred before the U.S. government took official action against these charities. The Holy Land Foundation was shut down in December 2001. Federal authorities accused it of being the main U.S. fundraiser for Hamas. The Islamic African Relief Agency had its assets frozen and was shut down in October 2004. The Treasury Department alleged it provided support to Osama bin Laden and al-Qaeda. The donations from the mosque were made in 1999, 2000, and 2002. This means they happened before the government designated them as terrorist fronts. In response to the reports, Hakeem was unequivocal. He had no knowledge of any links to terrorism. He would not have contributed if he had known. His defense centered on the timeline. He stated there is no way you can go back in time. After the fact, now they have the list of organizations that are banned by the government. He explained that representatives from the Islamic African Relief Agency had visited Houston. They told him the donations would be used to help the needy in Africa. His position was bolstered by statements from government officials. A Treasury Department spokeswoman noted that in many cases donors are being unwittingly misled by the charities when announcing indictments against officers of the Holy Land Foundation. Attorney General John Ashcroft clarified something important. He said the action was neither a reflection on the well-meaning people who may have donated funds to the foundation, nor a reflection on the Muslim faith and its adherents. Federal law enforcement officials confirmed they were not investigating Hakeem. A vigorous public defense came from a representative of the Council on American Islamic Relations. He had also attended the 1999 bowling event. He argued that Hakeem was being unfairly singled out in a post-9/11 climate of suspicion, fear, and prejudice. He wrote that if basketball legend Hakeem Olajuwon is guilty of supporting terrorism, then he supposed he was too. He emphasized that many people, including politicians, had supported these charities believing they were doing good work. This controversy serves as a stark case study in a post-9/11 world. Islamic philanthropy became a geopolitical minefield. For prominent Muslims like Hakeem, the religious duty of charity was transformed from a private act of faith into a public act fraught with peril. His routine religious practice became entangled in complex international politics far beyond his control or expertise. While he was ultimately cleared of any wrongdoing, the controversy showed how his faith, a source of immense personal strength and discipline, could also become a source of profound public vulnerability. This all leads to the real complexity: his identity as a black migrant athlete. In 2020, amidst the nationwide protests following the murder of George Floyd, Hakeem offered a characteristically nuanced perspective. He stated that racism has always been there but is now magnified by social media. Social media is a modern tool that sheds light on injustices that were once hidden. Crucially, he framed his commentary with a comparative lens, praising the rights afforded to Americans. He observed that people have freedom of expression and freedom of speech, as long as they do not break the law. In other countries outside America, people do not have that same opportunity. He also acknowledged the bubble of celebrity. He noted that the treatment that black athletes get is different than the regular person. It was a candid admission of the privilege that his status affords. The media often treated black African immigrants as a model minority. They were given a pass because they were positioned as different from African Americans. However, this acceptance was highly conditional. It was always contingent on sticking to the stereotype. Most importantly, avoiding any discussion of racism in society. If the athlete deviated from this script, they were in danger of being stigmatized like African Americans. This created a tightrope that athletes like Hakeem had to walk. Their foreignness was both an asset and a constraint. His public comments on racism can be seen as a masterful navigation of the conditional acceptance he was granted. By acknowledging the problem of racism while simultaneously praising American freedoms, he performed a delicate balancing act. This allowed him to express solidarity without adopting a confrontational stance that might have risked his exceptional status. It was a sophisticated communication strategy born from the precarious position of being the good immigrant. The public just wanted the simple dream, but his reality was far more complex. Throughout his career, Hakeem has been careful in how he presents himself. This is not cowardice or evasion. It is survival. It is the understanding that as a black Muslim immigrant, he exists in a precarious space. One misstep, one controversial statement, one moment of anger could unravel everything he has built. This is a burden that native-born athletes do not carry. They have the luxury of being outspoken, of making mistakes, being fully human in public. For Hakeem, every public appearance, every interview, every statement has been carefully calibrated. Not because he is inauthentic, but because the consequences of authenticity are too high. So, what did Hakeem finally confirm? Not a single simple secret, he confirmed. His life is a visible, multifaceted complexity. The Stranger at the Gate incidents from 1980 to 2025 confirmed his story of negotiated belonging. The Maxwell slap confirmed the competitive fire beneath the dream. The charity scandal confirmed the heavy burden of faith in a suspicious world. These incidents do not tarnish his legacy, they humanize it. They reveal a man of immense discipline and faith who also possessed a fierce temper. They show a global citizen who became a quintessential American success story, yet never fully escaped the conditional nature of that acceptance. He is not a flawed hero, but a deeply compelling human being who lived an extraordinary life under extraordinary pressures. The only confirmation is that the simple, elegant narrative of the dream was never the full story of Yeet. It was a convenient myth that allowed Americans to celebrate his achievements without confronting the uncomfortable realities of his experience. If this story opened your eyes to the real Hakeem Olajuwon, make sure you smash that like button and hit subscribe. Drop a comment below and tell us your biggest takeaway from his incredible journey. What part of his story resonated most with you? Thanks for watching.